Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Campus Safety Voices. I'm Robin Hattersley, Editor-in-Chief of Campus Safety. With so many active shooter attacks happening in America right now, our nation's institutions of higher education must prepare for the possibility that a mass shooting could happen on their campus. That's why Biola University partnered with the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department, as well as other first responders, to conduct a full-scale active shooter exercise. In the exercise, which took place February 28th on Biola's campus, numerous Biola officers and Los Angeles Sheriff's Department deputies participated along with the local fire department, campus staff members, medical personnel, and students to test how the school and local first responders would respond to a mass shooting. I was there along with several other media organizations to witness the event, and some of the video and photos I took during the exercise are at the end of this video. If you are listening to the podcast version right now on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you might want to watch this video version on either campussafetymagazine.com or YouTube so that you can see the video and photos I took. But before the exercise took place, I got the chance to speak with Biola University Provost and Senior Vice President Matthew Hall. I asked him why senior university administrators like him support full-scale active shooter exercises on their campuses. And here's what he said.
I think that for a lot of us in higher education, we realize that often our operations can get pretty siloed. And so, unfortunately, headlines that we're seeing far too often on a recurring basis remind us that we really can't afford to operate that way or to think that way as campus leaders. So I think we have to think far more holistically. And really, for those of us on the academic side, we understand that the educational mission of an institution like a university is pretty all-encompassing. And so it certainly applies to the classroom, and that means that we need to know in the event of a crisis of an active shooter, for example, what do faculty need to know, and how do they respond, and how do they need to, in that moment, direct students to respond accordingly and safely. We need to know what happens in co-curricular spaces. And I think we often, if institutions don't go through these kinds of planning exercises, a lot of those faulty assumptions get revealed in rather tragic ways.
I then asked him how involved he and other administrators were in setting up the exercise and why it's so important for his school to conduct this type of exercise.
Well, I'll reassure you, I'm not jumping out of a helicopter or participating in a SWAT team. But no, I think where we've had really good collaboration within our leadership team is our chief of police, our chief of campus security, I should say, is a member of the university cabinet. And so we, on the front end, even though I'm not planning the exercises or the simulations, there's a lot of communication across departmental lines. And so our cabinet's been involved and briefed on this, is involved in different ways. This morning we're talking to different members of the community and making sure that we're collaborating well on this. So I think for us, it's been really important. We have one of the safest campuses in North America, but that comes as a result of careful planning and intentionality and communicating across those departmental lines. So we've got about 7 different local agencies here in Southern California that are collaborating with us, representatives from a couple other institutions, one in Oklahoma, another university in Arizona. They're here to participate in this. We're all trying to learn together and also to maybe do some scenarios where we test out, well, are we as ready as we think we are? And how will we respond? How will the simulation, what will it show us and reveal to us about areas where we can make constant improvements? No, I think we're all we feel the tragic weight of these headlines that we see, unfortunately, on a recurring basis. And we're just, I think, all reminded that we need to collaborate across different institutional boundaries, and we really need one another in higher education to sharpen our stewardship and be better equipped to serve our students and our communities.
I then spoke with Biola Associate Vice President and Chief of Campus Safety, John Ojeisekhoba Sr., and asked how his non-sworn department's involvement in active shooter response is different from sworn police officer responses to this type of situation. Here's what he said.
When it comes to campus safety, sworn or non-sworn, we're all first responders. And in our case, here, we have a memorandum of understanding with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department that gives our officers peace officer powers of arrest while on duty. So our officers have that status even if we're not like a full-blown sworn department. But the bottom line is that every college campus have a responsibility to have first responders on campus, because what we're finding out is if we have a threatening situation happening on a college campus, relying on external law enforcement, which is good, sometimes there can be a delay. So that's part of why we formed this partnership with the Los Angeles County Sheriff Department. Our personnel will respond. If the Sheriff Department arrive, we'll join forces and respond together as well.
I then asked about the specific duties of his non-sworn officers during an active shooter situation.
So when responding to an active shooter threat or incident, it's the same exact responsibilities that a sworn police officer would have. And that means to try to neutralize the threat and save lives. That's the primary goals that we have assigned to our personnel who may be responding to an active shooter situation on our campus.
So are they armed?
Yes.
Okay.
Our campus has been armed for almost 17 years now.
Okay. So what kind of training do you recommend for non-sworn officers to go through as far as active shooter training is concerned?
Well, it depends. You have some campuses who are armed, we have some campuses who are not armed. Campuses who are armed, my recommendation is to think beyond just having a gun on the hips, to think about conducting frequent trainings. Over here on our campus, we conduct frequent trainings, not just frequent trainings, discussions, but we conduct those trainings inside our own buildings across this entire campus. We go from building to building because we understand the layout. We know we're going to get there, first. So that's the number one thing that I will highly encourage, to train. For campuses who are unarmed, what I would recommend is to develop procedures and understand their role, and understand that an unarmed campus safety officer is almost the same as just a citizen that is on the campus. They're not going to be able to do much. I'm sorry to say that.
But they still know the layout of the campus, and they can still help law enforcement guide them in where the threat is and the layout and where to turn off the power, turn on the power, turn off the lights, or turn on the lights, things like that, correct?
That is correct. When I say they won't be able to do much, I'm referring to responding to a person with a gun, with a rifle, right? But yes, unarmed personnel can assist law enforcement, can help with logistics, can help with evacuation, can help with sending mass notification systems to the entire campus and the community. Yes, that's correct.
And video surveillance and access control, locking doors, unlocking doors, things like that.
That is correct.
Right. Chief, is there anything you want to add?
What I want to add is this, is that, it's sad that we've gotten to this point. Not just because of the Michigan State University shooting. Just last week, a campus police officer was shot and killed at Temple University, and I happened to, attend his funeral this past weekend. It was one of the saddest moments. All these shootings occurring on college campuses, not just targeting our students, faculty, staff, and those who are on campus, but now, our first responders, as well. It is truly, sad. And gone are those days, where we can say that we're immune. We're not immune any longer. So my advice, to chiefs, whether you're from a sworn department or non-sworn, make sure you put a plan in place and make sure that plan is tested. That's what we're trying to do here today.
And now here are some photos and video I took of the active shooter full-scale exercise. Thanks for watching.
Stand up, go! Be sure to subscribe to Campus Safety's YouTube channel and like or leave a comment on our videos. Or subscribe to our Campus Safety Voices podcast on Apple and Spotify and leave a review.